Relay FM, welcome to the 10th Annual Upgradies Awards. This evening's proceedings are brought to you by our broadcast partners, Electric, Text Expander, Factor, and Vitally, simulcast from London, England, and Mill Valley, California. I am one of your hosts, Mike Hurley, and joining me is my co-host and yours, Jason Snell. Jason, welcome back to the Upgradies.
Thank you, Mike Hurley. It's a delight to be back. It's hard to believe it's the 10th Annual Upgradies. It's hard to believe that just 10 years ago, well, 9 years ago, I guess. This is the 10th. We're starting our 10th year. Just 9 years ago. It's easy to believe 10. Just 9 years ago, you tried to call it the first Annual Upgradies. So,
and I was laughed out of the podcast, and now look at us now, you know?
Look at us now.
Look at us now.
Indeed.
Who would have thought it? Look at us now. But here we are. So I will mention right now, you can just go to upgradies.com, where you will find the winners of all previous Upgradies and all of the what will be by the end of this evening, all 10 Upgradies. Now, in many award shows, there are the pre-awards, the pre-show awards that happen before, sometimes referred to as the technical awards. And I would like to, if you would give us a moment, I would like to honor our technical award winners for the Upgradies.
It's funny, I was watching a video this weekend in which Alex Horn, the co-host of the wonderful series Taskmaster, was on the Great British Baking Show, a charity version of it. And they were doing the technical challenge, and he asked, I thought, very perceptive question, is anything positive when described as technical? Right? And I think that this is true, that most of the things when it's like it's technically technical, it's not actually positive. It's a negative. But you know what is? The technical awards. The technical awards are positive because they're just awarding people for doing great technical things. Indeed.
So we have, this is the first time we're doing this, but I thought we have our technical award winners. So for web design, for upgradies.com, goes to Zach Knox.
Yes.
For artwork, JD Davis, who I will say, this is my favorite artwork of all of the Upgradies. It came to my mind, and we just did it. And I love it, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, sorry to Frank, who did some great work for us too, but
look, we've had Frank,
amazing.
We've had Frank, we've had David, we've done incredible work, but JD has done an incredible job, and I'm this one, I'll tell you why, Jason, the reason I love this is all of the other ones, I have not briefed exactly what I was looking for. But this one, I briefed exactly what I wanted, and it was this, which is, it's Leopard, right? I always say it's Snow Leopard, but it's not. This is a riff on OS X Leopard. That's what the artwork is this time.
It's the Time Machine-esque kind of galaxy in the background with the big, I have this somewhere, it's the big black box with the disc in it. And it's amazing.
Truly, truly incredible. For music, the one and only Chris Breen.
Of course.
For audio editing, Jim Metzendorf. Video editing, Chip Sudduth. And for social media, Jamie Snell. Yep. No nepotism around here, just a well-won award.
These are, well, I mean, they're really just a clever way of doing the credits, but we're getting to the end of the year, so thank you to everybody who makes the Upgradies and Upgrade possible every week.
Should we get to our very first category?
Let's do it.
We're going to start with Best Overall iOS App. I will start off from the Upgradians votes, as we do every year. So we put out the call a number of weeks ago to the Upgradians to vote and make their nominations known. With 5.9% was Flighty, 7.9% was Ivory, and 9.1% was Carrot Weather.
I love the choices by the Upgradians here because I agree with all of them.
Yep.
Those are great apps. All of them are great. I struggle with this category because, first off, we've covered a lot of these, my favorite apps, before. And I try to think at least a little bit in that Eddie Award view of sort of like what was done recently. Ivory is basically new, although, I mean, it was Tweetbot, sort of, but not really. And I think I'm torn between Flighty and Ivory, honestly. I think, though, like last year we gave the award to Flighty. Flighty is a not cheap, but excellent travel app, flight tracking app for when you're traveling. And they added, they had a great year last year, and then this year they added more features. They just kept piling it on. Like, I cannot believe how much more they added this year. There's a watch complication. I use it all the time. Whenever I travel, I use it. I rely on it, and every detail is immaculate. Like, it is in a lot of ways I don't know if it's the platonic ideal of an iPad or an iPhone app, but like pretty close. It is an app. You get those apps in some niches and you're like, this is good and it's useful and it's functional, but the developers have obviously compromised, or they've done something because it's cross-platform, or they just didn't have the time, or they just don't get it. None of that is true with Flighty. They get it. All of it. So I think I'm going to say Flighty. What do you think?
I agree with all of the things that you've said about Flighty, right? That it is, we awarded it last year, and it's an expensive app, and it's an app for a very particular type of need. But I think the last year has excelled the application way past last time, right? Like our last awarding, like the addition, and I will add the addition of the Apple Watch app into kind of like iOS app, because we don't have a watch app category, I think, for good reason.
Right.
And so I'm going to put it all in here. And really, this, I think, is, to me, a no-brainer. I think the app has come along leaps and bounds this year by adding that app, by improving live activities, by improving widgets. I think it was this year that they added the Friends Flight feature as well, where you can track friends' flights and also share with specific people that every flight say me and you were to share with each other, every flight you or I take, we'd each other see automatically without any sharing needed. Like, to me, this is a pretty clear one that I would say that Flighty is the winner this year.
Yeah, the one feature of Flighty that I used at Thanksgiving that just blew me away is you can put in friends' flights and mark them as friends' flights, and you get different notifications, and it's in a different place than your flights. But there's also a today view. And so on Thanksgiving, on the day before Thanksgiving, I was able to track my daughter flying in from Portland, my son flying in from Eugene, my sister-in-law flying in from Fresno, all to Denver, our flight from Oakland, and actually my mother-in-law's flight the day before was in there too, from Orange County. And so on the day, I was able to actually see everybody's status at a glance, in addition to getting all my flight info and having the live activity and having the watch app and the complication on the watch. I was able to, at a glance, see where everybody was. And then going out on the Saturday, same thing in reverse. I was able to see where everybody was going, what gate they were, who was leaving first, who needed to get out now, who was delayed. And I know there are lots of apps that do this, but like the detail of the work that Flighty does is also pretty impressive. So I think it needs to be a repeat winner, honestly.
Yeah, it's just an app that's continuing to improve. I don't know how much better they can make it. And like also like at this point, the subscription that we mentioned, I also really like that they have passes that you can just buy, like, I want it for a week or something like that, or a selection of flights instead of like just paying an annual fee. I pay an annual subscription because I use it enough, and I think it's wonderful. So the best overall iOS app of 2023 is Flighty, bringing them to 2 total wins in this category, and
pretty good.
That means 1 away from a Lifetime Achievement Award. So we will move on now to the best newcomer iOS app. Last year, the winner was Sticker Drop, which might be the fastest to Sherlocking that I think we may have seen, because now this is just really just a feature of iOS, but it was wonderful at the time.
Unfortunately, it is a feature of iOS now. Yes. Because it was badly done, but
I like the sticker part. The reactions part
right.
is the part
having easy access to stickers is fine. the emojis should be in the tab backs, and that's just the bottom line. But yes, that was last year, and this year, sorry, sticker drop. Not going to win this year.
The Upgradians voted with 8.2% for Threads, 22.1% for Call Sheet, and 24.2% for Ivory. What are you bringing to the table, Jason?
Well, I like Call Sheet and Ivory.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to bring 2 to the table. I'm going to bring Ivory. So I was always a Twitterific person. And somebody was asking me the other day about not being on Twitter anymore. And I said, I don't want to be on Twitter anymore. And the only part of Twitter that I'm really on anymore is I literally have a link to my list of sports media, because the sports media people are still there and they have not gone somewhere else. It is still the best place for me to see that stuff. But that's it. And I see it in a bookmark in a web browser window, and then I close the window. And that's my interaction with Twitter now. But the truth is, the thing that prompted me to pull back from Twitter was predated the continuing problems of Twitter and its owner. Really was they killed the third-party clients. And that means they killed Tweetbot, but they also killed Twitterific, which was my favorite app, probably my most used app of all time. And then one day it just stopped working. It was brutal. Just brutal. They just turned it off. We all knew it was coming. It was probably the right business decision. It's a rare, actually, probably right business decision, although I would argue that they could have used it to their advantage, but they didn't want to do that. Okay, whatever. So even though I'm not a Tweetbot person, when the Mastodon clients were all being built, there were a lot of them. A bunch of them are good. A bunch of them are not good. And Ivory came out, and it is the most polished, I would argue, and it certainly fits the way that I think about using social media. So I love it, and I use it all the time. Although I would say I use it a lot less than Twitterific, because I'm using social media a lot less than I used to. But I still am using Ivory, and I will say the reason that I am more engaged on Mastodon than I am on other social media is entirely down to the fact that Ivory is excellent on the iPad and the Mac. And most of those other social medias are excellent on the iPhone. And then on the Mac and on the iPad, you kind of have to put it in a web browser. And it's just not as good. So I like Ivory. I also want to throw in a word for an app I reviewed, an app I tried. Final Cut Pro for the iPad came out this year. And it's good. They did a good job. I was very impressed with it. It is Final Cut Pro. It is really functional. If you want to cut a video on an iPad, you can do it. And it works. I was very impressed. I was less impressed with Logic, although they made some changes there. But it's fundamentally a music app, and that's of less interest to me. But the Final Cut Pro implementation on iPad, I really liked, so I want to give it a shout out. What about you, Myke?
Okay, so maybe I'm going to say something controversial about Ivory. So I use Ivory. It is my Mastodon app of choice. I struggle to award it Best Newcomer because it's Tweetbot. I know they've done a lot to change it. I know, and it's been adapted and da-da-da-da-da. But it started out as Tweetbot. And I feel like other applications that could win this award did not start brand new, quote unquote, with 10 years worth of code-based work, right?
It's true.
Because for me, my favorite app this year is Call Sheet. And I know Casey is one of my best friends, but Call Sheet is excellent. Now, if you want to check my creds, I have not awarded this to Casey's previous apps, right? It's not like I'm just giving this to him because he's my friend. Call Sheet is one of the best apps that I've used this year, easy. The design is really good. I think it is an excellent use of the way that that stock design can be adapted today, right? That like he's using a lot of standard elements, but he's also sprinkling in his own touches. And talking about touches, there are so many little details. Like the easy one to mention that everybody mentions, but it's great, is that you have the ability. Call Sheet, by the way, in case you don't know, it is an application that is used for looking up information about TV shows, movies, actors, directors, that kind of thing. So replacement for services like IMDb. Me and Casey had used the IMDb app for years. We used to speak about it a lot. Neither of us really liked the app. He decided he was going to fix that, and he made Call Sheet. But one of the great features in Call Sheet is you want to look up a TV show, but you want a specific piece of information about it, you can turn on a spoiler warning, basically, which will hide all the, like, how many episodes there are, the titles of episodes, so you could, like, go in and just check something about the first episode or whatever without spoiling it for yourself, which is fantastic. Because I know I have spoiled myself and stuff like this all the time, because you're like watching season 1.
What do you mean he's only in one episode?
Exactly.
What do you mean he's only in season 1?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
So, Call Sheet
I would mention
superb.
the age feature is brilliant too,
Yep.
where you're looking up not only like who is that person, but like how old were they when they made this movie. He knows you are thinking that, and so the app will say that they were 24 when this movie was made. It's like, oh, wow, they look younger or older or whatever, right?
Yep. You can very easily pin items if you want to, so you can kind of use the app as a simple, like, this is what I want to watch kind of application, if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for and you don't use another app to do that, something like Sofa or SQL. And I just think it's really great. Like, this is one of my favorite apps of the year, and I think that it does a really good job of doing what it should do and lives up to the premise and the promise that Casey set out to, which is like create something simple to get the information that you're looking for.
Well, I was thinking I was just gonna push this through on Ivory, but I think you're right that although Ivory is an impressive app, it's basically a runner-up in multiple categories probably. But I hear your words about a Call Sheet being completely new, and even though we know Casey, like it's a really good app. I have recommended it to friends who have come back to me later without prompting and said, "Oh my God, that app is so great," which I think says something about that app. So sure, let's do it.
Worthy winner of the best newcomer iOS app this year is Call Sheet. See, I feel like there was a better case for Ivory in best overall, to be honest, than in best new.
Yeah, you should have warned me that this was coming, but it's too late now.
That's not how these awards go, you know what I mean?
Nope, that's not how they go. They're very linear. That's how they go.
This episode is brought to you by Electric. Turning a small business into something that is small to something that is much larger takes tons of work. You have to keep your ear to the ground for things that will help you take it to the next level. But this can be super hard when your attention is being pulled in different directions, because that is the reality of leading a business. The team over at Electric know that small businesses like yours face these challenges. That's why they're on hand to help with the time-consuming parts of your business. Stuff that you could do but maybe don't want to do, or things that you just have no idea how to handle effectively. Things like standardized device security that feature best-in-class device management, so you can implement best practices across the board to be ready to scale. Or employee onboarding or offboarding. Electric do it for you, saving you an average of 8 hours per request. Electric will help you keep a single point of visibility into your IT environment to control your devices, networks, and applications all in one place, with simplified reporting that allows you to achieve and maintain compliance, also with proactive IT recommendations and automated workflows to make it easy to manage for even non-technical users. If you are hearing this and think that your company could use some of these services but you're not sure how to get started, Electric's experts will guide you through the process of establishing standardized IT processes for your organization. This kind of stuff, it's not the kind of thing that I would want to do with my team. Like, I would want to use a company, a set of tools, a set of processes that I know I can rely on. That is what Electric provide. So you're making sure that you're doing it right, you're doing it efficiently, and saving yourself time. For Upgrade listeners, Electric is offering a free pair of Beats Solo 3 headphones for taking a qualified meeting. Just go to electric.ai/upgrade. That's electric.ai/upgrade. Go there now and get your free pair of Beats Solo 3 headphones today for scheduling a meeting. Our thanks to Electric for their support of this show and Relay FM. Okay, so our next award is for the best overall Mac app. Last year, Audio Hijack picked up the win and a Lifetime Achievement Award. The Upgradians voted with 4.1% for Bartender, 5.1% for Obsidian, and 5.3% for MimeStream.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So MimeStream came out as a 1.0 this year, but had been in beta last year, and in fact won our Newcomer Award last year, which made us have that whole question of like, is it a newcomer if it's not out yet?
Well,
but
the funny
really
thing, Jason, it won the Newcomer Award in 2021 and 2022.
Oh, it was 2 years in a row. So technically, it could win Newcomer for a third time.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
And be in the Newcomer Hall of Fame
now
for being a newcomer 3 years in a row, because it had just come out and then it was in beta and now it's a 1.0.
I'm excited about the possibility for that. However, I will pull myself up and say that feels unfair to Ivory for what I said about Ivory to then give the same app
right?
3 times in a row.
Yeah, it is. So MimeStream is great. It is a great Mac app. In fact, one of the things that I love about it, and I know we've talked about this the last few years in the newcomer category, is it's a Gmail client. I used Mailplane for a long time, which was literally a web view of Gmail, but with Mac stuff injected into it. So like you could do drag and drop of attachments and like the keyboard shortcuts made it be like a Mac app. So it was like this really amazing kind of, what if we took Gmail and put enough Mac stuff around it that it felt like you weren't using a browser window anymore? Quite. Close, but not quite. And you get the advantages of all the speed and the features of Gmail. MimeStream, written by Neil MimeStream, as we do on this podcast. Neil MimeStream used to be Neil Apple Mail. He worked on Apple Mail. Neil Javeri, I think is his actual name. So he left and started a company, and they said, we're going to build a Gmail client that is like a really good Mac client. And eventually they're probably going to do an iOS version, but a really good Mac client that's a Mac app. And people who, like me, who are predisposed to dislike Apple Mail, because I've used it and I don't like it, it throws off all of the stuff that I don't like about Apple Mail and actually just is good. And like, it's good. It is a good Mac app. There are so few like core, not utilities or anything, but like a core Mac app that does basic base level functionality and replaces the system app in a way that is dramatically better. And MimeStream does that. Now, it's not for everybody because it is, at least at present, just a Gmail client. But as somebody coming from Apple Mail and Mailplane, we gave it 2 Newcomer Awards. It's a great, legitimately great Mac app. So I think it has to be in the consideration here, even though it's been much awarded, because it is so very good. Again, in an era where there are not a lot of great Mac apps anymore, right? And the ones that are there, a lot of them are utilities, right? Because that's a thing that is a space where you can modify the Mac experience. That's a space that fits. So I think it deserves serious consideration. The other apps that I think we should consider here are Bartender 5, speaking of great Mac utilities, which lets you simplify and modify your menu bar on your Mac. And it's a venerable utility implied by the version 5, but big new features this year, lots of more functionality and intelligence about it, plus working around Apple sort of trying to make it much harder to
some theming
Bartender
settings, which are nice too, some visual stuff. And I think, once again, what Bartender did this year is found really elegant ways to work around new problems that were introduced by macOS changing, because this is one of those apps that is constantly playing reverse whack-a-mole.
Yeah. It's the mole, isn't it? Is it the mole? Apple keeps trying to whack it.
Yes, all that, like it's Apple's doing things and it has to sneak around the hammer, Like Apple doesn't even know it's playing whack-a-mole, but they just
it's just a hammer that's hammering other stuff, and there's a mole living under there, being like, "Watch out, hammer."
Yep.
That's an interesting idea in whack-a-mole. Like, is the native state of whack-a-mole, the natural state of whack-a-mole, that there's just a hammer that randomly appears, and the moles evolve to avoid it,
Yep.
and it's not trying to actually whack the moles. The whacking of a mole is just an accident.
Yep.
Interesting idea philosophically. The other thing I wanted to mention that is not purely a Mac technology or even a Mac app, and yet I'm going to mention it in this category because reasons, is OpenAI Whisper, which is the amazing transcription engine that OpenAI built. It has been implemented in a bunch of different ways. Apple just released a version of it. There's a guy on GitHub who did a version in C++. There have been multiple Mac apps wrapped around it, including Mac Whisper, but there are several. And it has been transformative for me on the Mac desktop this year. I just took the C++ version and put a shortcut around it, honestly. But there are also apps that do it. And as a technology, it's amazing. Now, as an app, it's not, right? It's inside other apps. But I want to mention it because as a technology running on Mac hardware with that Apple Silicon power, it's staggering how good it is.
All right, so here's where I'm falling with this. MimeStream, I love MimeStream. But the fact that it only supports Gmail means that I can't actually use it for the majority of my email. And so I am hesitant personally to give it the best Mac app. Like, I love it as winning the Newcomer app, as it has done twice, obviously. We love that. But I feel like it still has a way to go for it to be considered, in my mind, like the best app that it could possibly be. Because it's
okay. I'm okay giving this to Bartender 5. I mean, its newness is part of it, but also it is a traditional Mac utility that is great at its job.
Well, so here's what I was going to say. Bartender 1 in 2021.
Okay.
My vote would go to Bartender. However, I just wanted to say I have not used Whisper, but I benefit from Whisper because people I know use it. It's also, like, for me, interesting in a way to award something like Whisper because it's what 2023 has been, right? Is these machine learning tools.
Yeah.
So, like, if you felt strongly enough about it that you would consider it a winner, I would be happy to award it.
It would be a little outside the box because what I would be doing is saying OpenAI Whisper is the winner because it feeds into some great Mac apps and other applications that you can build yourself using a script or shortcuts or whatever, or the command line. And it takes full advantage of Apple hardware and the fact that Apple has now jumped on board and built their own implementation that's accelerated for Apple's frameworks. I do think it's kind of great. And, you know, it is the Upgradies. We do wacky stuff, and our Bartender won a couple years ago. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's give OpenAI Whisper an Upgradie. Why not?
So the winner of the 2023 Upgradie for Best Mac App is Whisper.
OpenAI Whisper.
That's wild.
And everybody who has an app that's based on Whisper, you can now say that you can't say that you won an Upgradie, but you can say you use Upgradie winning technology.
Upgradie winning technology, and we'll give Bartender and MimeStream the runner-up nods.
Yeah, sounds good.
Best Newcomer Mac App now. Last year, MimeStream
and the
was
year
the
before.
winner, and the year before. We don't talk about that, you know.
Love it. I love it. I love the chaos of it. That's great. We're not bound by rules.
No.
There are no rules for the Upgradies. There are literally no rules.
We make
for the
them up
Upgradies.
as we go along, and they're flexible.
And then discard them as necessary.
Yeah. That's the best way to do awards.
That's how to do it.
The Upgradians voted Bartender 5 at 4.4%, MimeStream at 13.8%, and Ivory at 23.3%. Do you mind if I go first at this category?
Please do.
To me, this is where Ivory picks up the nod from me. Like, I think that this is the perfect place to put it, because it is a new app, right? Like, for as much as we spoke about it earlier, like, it came from somewhere else, but it's a new app. And I would particularly highlight it here because I feel like at the time Ivory on the Mac came out, like, the desperation was real for a good Mac Mastodon client. And I think Ivory has done the job for that. Where I feel like on the iPhone, the competition is much more varied, and there are more really good competitors, at least at the time when Ivory was around, right? Like there were a bunch of apps that were popping up, and they were doing a good job. But I feel like on the Mac version, Ivory was really needed and welcomed at the time that it arrived.
I agree with you. I think our challenge here is that we've got an app that is sort of derived from a previous app. We've got an app that is not a newcomer, just the new version 5 is new. And then Mindstream is the app that is new in a way, but also has won this category the last 2 years. So there's a lot of retreading going on in the Newcomer Mac App category, which I feel like is kind of fitting. But there's a lot of good Mac stuff. It's just there's some iteration going on here. I fully endorse Ivory winning an Upgradies somewhere, and I do use it on the Mac, and I agree. Getting Mac apps for modern social media. Like, I know everybody's really excited that there's this new feature in Sonoma where you can, you've been able to do this in third-party apps for a while, but like Safari will just let you save threads out as an app, but it's really just a Safari window.
Which is
and you can
nice.
Save Blue Sky out.
I'm happy I can do that, but it's not ideal.
No, it's not. It's not a replacement for the Mac app. So yeah, let's give it to Ivory because I want to thank Tapbots for actually caring enough to make a Mac app.
Yep.
They didn't have to, and I'm glad they did. And it's a good Mac app, even though it is familiar to people who've used Tweetbot. It's not the same, and I'm so glad that it exists on the Mac. And I have it open on my Mac right now.
Yep. So the winner of the 2023 Upgradie for Best Newcomer Mac App is Ivory, with Mindstream and Bartender 5 as runners-up. As we mentioned earlier, there is a full list of all the winners and runner-ups in every category over at upgradies.com. We have a new category for this year, which we're calling Best Feature. And each year, Jason and I will decide which Apple platform feature do we want to highlight for this category. And this year, we chose widgets. In a year where widgets found their way to the Mac, became interactive, and became a pivotal focus of watchOS, we wanted to award widgets. So developers who have made good widgets, we wanted to note them. The Upgradians voted in this category with 5.2% for Widgetsmith, 5.8% for Fantastical, and 15.7% for Carrot Weather.
Huh. Well, my nomination in this category is Flighty.
Interesting.
I enjoy Flighty's widgets and I use them and I find them valuable. They could be more dynamic. They're doing a lot of work in the dynamic island and in live activities. But on the Apple Watch in the complications, right? They're like kind of all around it. Their widgets are okay. They're sort of countdown and then current time and location. It's not their strength, but I do like them, and I wanted to give them a shout out. The other ones that are in this category, I feel like you are ready to anticipate because I can see what you are going to say because I can see into the future. So why don't you just go ahead?
Well,
I'm in line with your picks here anyway.
I like Flighty's widgets, but their live activity work and complication work is superior to their widgets.
It's superior
because that's just more helpful for the type of app that it is. My nods are for the Home app widget, which is just awesome, and I use it every day, and I'm so happy they did it because we spoke about it on the show just before it happened. The Control Center version where it's trying to guess what you want is no good. And if you have used the widget and you're like, well, that just does the same. If you long press on the widget, you can turn off a toggle, which allows you to switch from a recommended system to just choosing your own scenes and items that you would like to just be in Apple's Home widget. And then I want to give a nod to Widgetsmith because, look, Widgetsmith is the king of widgets anyway, and David Smith does such a good job. I feel like this is one where I don't need to make the disclaimer that Dave is my friend because, like, everyone on the planet uses Widgetsmith. But what I think David did a really great job of this year, as he want to do, is to take something new and do something with it that nobody else is doing. And some of the stuff that he's done with interactive widgets are incredible. Like, the man rebuilt cover flow inside of a widget so you can scroll through your albums.
Just because he could.
But my favorite thing that he did was quite simple, but can be quite powerful depending on how you use it, is the ability to kind of stack widgets on top of each other within one widget. So something that I loved about Widgetsmith and something I'd used for a long time was the countdown widget. So if I had a big event going on in my life or a vacation, I would set up a countdown and you could add an image. So I would put an image of the place that I was going to or something. But you always had to pick the right image so the text worked correctly. Now you don't need to worry about it. Pick whatever image you want, and then when you tap it, the widget slides up and shows you the countdown to your event. Just little things like that. Widgetsmith continues to be incredible, and the interactivity has only taken it a step further this year. So for my money, the best widgets go to Widgetsmith.
See, we swear we did not create this category just to give an award to Widgetsmith. We really didn't. Mm-hmm. But it's not a surprise that an app entirely devoted to widgets is doing the best at widgets. And so I agree with you. Let's give it to Widgetsmith.
So I just wanted to make a couple of other statements about this, because I would want to put Home and Flighty as the runners-up. And my reasoning for this, so we've got Carrot Weather and Fantastic Owls voted for by the Upgradians. This is very interesting to me. So Fantastic Owl and Carrot Weather have great widgets. I don't feel that these are versions of applications that have done a great job of interactivity, which in my mind is the kind of thing we're focusing on this time.
Yeah, Flighty doesn't really have great interactivity either, though, in their widget.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of great interactive widgets, and there are some out there. There are not as many that, at least that I've used.
Well, I would say, though, that like Carrot just has really good widgets. Like, if we're going to say like who's got the best widgets out of all of these
Let's say Carrot
ones,
is the runner-up there, because Carrot's widgets are very good.
They're always very good, but not necessarily very good interactivity-wise. But super good. So best widgets, best feature widgets goes to Widgetsmith with Home and Carrot Weather as our runners-up. This episode is brought to you by Text Expander. When you work in a small team, every moment counts. You don't want to waste time finding video conferencing details to send to a new client. You don't want to track down the same FAQs from the company website. These are the kinds of things you want directly at your fingertips so you're able to get your work done faster and more efficiently. That is why you need Text Expander. With Text Expander, you can access what you type the most with just a few keystrokes, allowing you to work faster and eliminate repetition, letting you focus on what matters most to you. Text Expander's powerful shortcuts and abbreviations streamline your team's work. All you have to do is type a couple of keystrokes, and Text Expander does the rest for you. You just build and collect your most commonly used phrases, messages, URLs, and so much more right within Text Expander, and they're with you wherever you type. You can even customize the snippets by automatically adding in dates, fields that you can fill in the blanks of, timestamps, and so much more to make sure that you're keeping the personality in the communication you send. Text Expander is available on any device that you use across any app that you use on Mac, Windows, Chrome, and iOS. It is used extensively here by the team at Relay FM. I was just on a call with Stephen and Carrie before we recorded Upgrade today, and I asked Carrie a question, and she went, "Let me check that," and I heard the bloop sound of Text Expander in the background as she was pulling up the copy that we needed for another sponsor. They're the best. We love Text Expander for what they do for us. If repetitive typing is getting you down, you need Text Expander. Check out Text Expander today at textexpander.com/upgrade, and you will get 20% off your first year. That's textexpander.com/upgrade to say goodbye to repetitive typing. Our thanks to Text Expander for their support of this show and Relay FM. It is time to award the Upgradie for Game of the Year. It's goatee time, everybody. My
Mike's
favorite category. Last year was Marvel Snap.
Yeah. I have a word about Marvel Snap because I just took your word for it last year. You made a great case for Marvel Snap and how much you liked it and how fun it was. And I just want to say now, kind of moving retroactively, the game I played the most this year by far was Marvel Snap.
Right.
So thanks.
You endorsed the 2022 Upgradie for Marvel Snap.
I endorse the Upgradies about Marvel Snap. I love it. It's great. And I'll throw out there also, not quite an app, but Puzzmo launched, which is Zach Gage's web-based puzzle page, basically, with lots of familiar Zach Gage games and other games. And they are now owned. They got bought by Hearst, so they're integrating it with the Hearst newspapers like the San Francisco Chronicle. and the Houston Chronicle. And that's also really great, even though it's not, it's just a game, right? This is platform independent. It's just a bunch of puzzles, and they're great. So I want to mention those. But now I hand the floor over to the host of the Upgradies Game of the Year, Myke Hurley.
All right, I'm going to start with the Upgradians votes. 7% for Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Baldur's Gate 3, 8.9%. And a whopping 30.5% was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And let me tell you, the Upgradians, they are gamers with taste, Jason Snell, because they pick correctly.
I'm sure.
Now, let me say, these 3 games here, interchangeable as Game of the Year, depending on where you're coming from, honestly. Like, I played all of them. I could see it. For me, I would put Spider-Man 2 above Baldur's Gate 3. I think Baldur's Gate is an incredible achievement, and I would say 60% of the game is incredible, and I feel like 30% of the game starts to get a bit weird and slow, and I have yet to finish it because I feel like it keeps pushing me away from wanting to play. Spider-Man 2, unbelievable. Like, in a year without Tears of the Kingdom, this is an easy Game of the Year for me. I loved it. Like, there was a point playing this game where I was like, is this my favorite Game of the Year? And it's just difficult for it to hold the level that it was at, I think, for an entire game experience, where Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom had a almost insurmountable task, which was, how do you maybe the best game ever made? And it did it. And it did it by adding in incredible new mechanics, by expanding the world significantly, and layering on top of it a beautiful story. And for me, the only mark that I had against Breath of the Wild was that there was not a coherent, good story told in the game, and they crushed it with Tears of the Kingdom. This is my new favorite game of all time, and is therefore the 2023 winner for Game of the Year.
Sounds great.
It's so good, man. I know. You didn't play Breath of the Wild, or did you?
No. I'm not a person who plays. My son feeds me all of these things, but I'm just not. Like, when I was sick last week, I played the first level of the original Spider-Man game.
Yeah,
and that was fun. But even then, it was fun. But there's just so much like button mashing, and it's just is not. My brain doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, and I was on easiest.
I would say though, as an opener, that's hard. Like, it's quite a hard opener. I think in the first game they did not balance the opening well. Where the opening to Spider-Man 2 is the best opening of any video game I've ever played. Nice. It is unbelievable. Genuinely, it looks and feels like you're playing a movie. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Cool. And basically, one of the big things for them is this game was just developed for the PlayStation 5. Like, it was not developed for the PlayStation 4. And so they were able to really take advantage of what the PlayStation 5 is capable of. And
I love hearing about these. I mean, the truth is that my entertainment choices are books and movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
And I try to think of, like, when would I play games? And the other thing is, I do, other than reading books, which I tend to do sort of like as I'm going to bed, the movies and TV shows I do with Lauren. And video game, like, I can never find the time to go off by myself. I never can. To be like, I'm just going to go play a video game. You do something else, especially since I already do that sometimes with podcasts. Like, there's enough of that already. So I just never find the time. And when it's like this amount of time to play some of these games, it's just like it never happens for me. So I'm not. I always am an aspirational gamer. I have bought so many games, and I almost never play them. Yep. So that's just my life.
Understood. All right. So for the next category is favorite movie.
Hey, speaking of movies.
Last year was Turning Red, which is coming to the cinemas next year, and I'm going to go see it.
It is in January, I think. Yeah,
I want to go see it.
Yeah, great movie. Really great movie.
For this year, the Upgradians voted 14.7% for Barbie, 18% for Oppenheimer, and 18.7% for the Dark Horse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I loved that.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was super cool.
Good job, Upgradians.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at your choices here, they're the same as the Upgradians. You're right in line.
Yeah, my 3 nominations are these 3 exact movies, and they are coming from very different places. So,
yeah, they are.
So Oppenheimer's the best movie I saw this year. Spider-Verse 2 was just amazing. I loved it. And Barbie was the most fun I had in the cinema this year. Like, if I was to rank them, I probably would go Oppenheimer, Barbie, Spider-Verse. Like, that would be my ranking. What is your favorite movie of the year?
Oppenheimer was my favorite movie of the year.
It's pretty
hands
great.
down. I love Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I really did. I didn't mind that it has a cliffhanger at the end because I knew going in that they were doing 2 movies, and it felt very clear that they were going to lead up to a cliffhanger, and I was fine with that. And the fact that you talk about topping Breath of the Wild. How do you follow Breath of the Wild? Well, how do you follow the first Spider-Verse movie, which was a beautiful thing unto itself that just, it stands alone and is beautiful. And I would argue, one of the great animated films of all time.
Yeah.
How do you follow that? And the answer is they followed it with something that's pretty great. And does it match up? I don't know, because the story isn't done yet. But it certainly didn't make me feel like they let me down. In fact, it felt like they were trying to shift into another gear and be more ambitious, which is what you should do after you make a movie that's ambitious and successful like the first one. So I really admire it. I think it's really great. But I thought Oppenheimer was the best movie I saw this year. And I've read a lot about that era. I read The Making of the Atomic Bomb a couple of years ago. I actually read the Oppenheimer biography after I saw it. And I was like, oh, that's why there are all these scenes with Robert Downey Jr. in there. I didn't think they were that interesting in the book, actually. But in the movie, Christopher Nolan's doing his thing where he is telling a story about a particularly important and cataclysmic event in human history and a person who was right at the center of it. And in his style of breaking up the time frame and having it kind of whirl around the different parts of this guy's life, you end up with a story that is, you can see the story that Christopher Nolan is wanting to tell with the chopped up pieces placed in a particular order. I think it was really brilliantly done. And saw it in 70 millimeter, I want to say.
Me too.
And looks great. Really effective, beautiful, serious, moving. I walked out of the theater thinking, that's why we make movies right there. So I think that's the winner, and then the other 2 are our runners up.
Yeah, I would like to just on Oppenheimer, like, also just add in just how incredible of a job Cillian Murphy did. Like, just crushed it.
Yeah,
because that is a hard job.
He's a very particular character too, Oppenheimer. Yeah. He is trying to be a very, very specific kind of character, Oppenheimer, and he does a good job.
Yeah, he is in so much of that movie, and it's a long movie, and he's in
it's a big movie,
of it. And that is a tough job to do. Like, I watched a really good
cast
interview thing, and everyone was saying that, like Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr. were just like giving him props of like, that is a Herculean task to know all those words and be in all those scenes. And he did a fantastic job. I've been a big fan of his, especially as a fan of Peaky Blinders, and I'm happy that he has gotten his Hollywood breakout movie, where he's kind of been a supporting player in a lot of Nolan movies, and this time he was the star.
Yep.
Favorite TV show? Last year we awarded Severance.
Whew.
This year the Upgradians voted with 8.4% for The Last of Us, 11.4% for Loki, and 12.2% for Silo. If you permit me to go first, because you have more options here. So
I do.
I want to throw Succession in. Succession ended just a truly superb season. Really, really, really stuck the landing. The Last of Us was just a real feat. I think they did an incredible job retelling that story in a new medium, and I think that Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal were just superb. I watched all of The Bear this year, so season 1 and 2. That is a television show. Let me
It really
tell
is. Season 2 was great. Season 2
Yeah.
is, I mean, season 1 was great, and I think I might have mentioned it last year, but season
Yes.
2 is just spectacular too.
Yeah.
Like, talk about your follow-ups.
Yeah.
Managing to do it. That The Bear season 2 does it. Yeah.
So does Loki. Loki season 2. If you have
I watched
been-
episode 1 and I did not like it, but I will
Interesting.
power on at some point and watch
It's
the
great
rest of it. I
end.
was really turned off by episode 1.
The last 2 episodes, especially, are superb. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am not a Marvel doomer, but this show kind of reminded me of how good they can be with story. And also Slow Horses.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Slow Horses. We've spoken about this a couple of times. It is a very interesting show based in the UK. It's based on some books. Gary Oldman in the lead, just doing a really weird and wonderful performance of just a disgusting MI5 agent.
Yep.
And Slow Horses, there is a group of MI5 agents who, for whatever reason, have been deemed unfit, and so they get sent to a place called Slough House, where they go to work on unglamorous tasks. And
junk work, because they can't be fired for whatever reason. They won't quit, and so they're basically shelved at Slough House under Gary Oldman's leadership. And you might think, how is that a show? And the answer is, well, that's the premise, right? Is that there's some things that end up going to the Slow Horses for various reasons. And also you get the very strong sense that Jackson Lamb, Gary Oldman's character, is not all that he appears to be.
Yep.
And so they're more useful than you think, but they are also the rejects. So it's like doing a movie about a superhero team of rejects or something. It's that kind of idea. Is like these are spies. They're bad spies, but they are spies. And they're not necessarily even bad, but they did stupid stuff, and they've got stupid things in their lives that have made them get warehoused. And they also have low self-esteem because, I mean, either they're dreaming on working their way back to MI5, or they can't think of what else they would do in life, so they're just going to sit and stare out a window at Slough House. It's a great show. Great show.
what I would say, like, I've seen the whole season. No spoilers, but I just wanted to throw that out there because sometimes we get special access to things, and this is one of those.
Yes.
Thank you, Apple TV team. What I like about Slow Horses is it is a spy thriller that is dealing with ultimately small things, where spy thrillers are usually like huge, and they're like, we're dealing with the fate of the world, or like there's a supervillain who's trying to blow up space, and this is like there are things that need to be dealt with, but maybe they only impact a small group of people, or maybe it's just one town or half of a city or whatever, and these things have to be dealt with, though, and the Slow Horses do it. So that's what I like about the show. It's everything those shows have, but on a smaller scale. So it's super cool. So they're my picks.
It's an Apple TV. We talked at the time about they hired like somebody from the BBC to head their European TV development. This is a British show. In fact, I saw it in a list of 10. I was like, why is it not in this 10 best list? And then the next list was 10 best international. There's an American list, and it was in there. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it is a British show, right? But it's an Apple TV show. It's brilliant.
And it's a show that they shoot oddly in such a way that at the end of each season, they show you a trailer of the entire next season, which I love.
The way they shoot it is these are 6-episode seasons. They're very short, but they shoot 12 episodes in a block. So they shoot 2 seasons at once. So at the end of season 1, they know what season 2 is going to be. They show you a trailer for it. So they've shot season 3 and 4. We've seen season 3, or you and I at least have seen all of it. And then there's a trailer for season 4 based on the books by Mick Herron. It's following the books. My understanding is pretty closely.
Cool.
I've only read the first one of the books. Books are good too. All right. I thought this was a great year for TV. Honestly, great year. I've got a long list. I don't know what to pick here. Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 2 was amazing, and it is everything I like. As a lifelong Star Trek fan, I cannot believe we got a show as good as Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It is accessible, it's friendly, it's the captain and crew of the Starship Enterprise going around having adventures. It is fundamentally Star Trek, and Anson Mount is Captain Pike, and he is super charismatic, and it is an awesome show. And this year, they did a crossover with the animated show Lower Decks, where animated characters came into the real world.
Oh.
That was hilarious and amazing. They did a musical episode that is really good, and they also had like their season finale is another kind of action, like Aliens-esque kind of thing. Just every episode is a different genre. It really well done. So big fan. Strange New Worlds, love it. I mentioned you mentioned Slow Horses, great. Foundation season 2 was really good. I know people were really mixed on Foundation season 1 because it's slow and it starts really slow, and you have to download a lot of information. And I think it's intentionally a little slower than it needs to be. That is not a problem with season 2. They got the notes. They clearly got the notes. Season 2 is much faster paced. And what I love about Foundation is it looks like the inside of my internal like mind's eye when I read these ridiculous widescreen space opera novels that are full of ideas and do wild stuff, and you would think, well, that's never going to be able to be put on a screen, right? It's just, it can't. Who would do that, and who would pay for it? And the answer is David Goyer and Apple, and it's Foundation. It is. And also, it's like, I've heard people say it's Star Wars-esque in the sense that it's about an empire, but it's not. It only in the broadest sense is like Star Wars. It is really, it's intelligent. It is weird. It makes some very strange decisions. It's kind of, you got to pay attention to it, but it looks amazing. I think there is maybe not a better looking show on TV than Foundation. Love it. Season 2, loved it. Every episode of it, great. So much fun. The Bear.
Yep.
You said it. Pick your favorite episode. There's that Christmas episode where everybody in the family is, and it brings up back all the intensity and all the emotional. I thought the episode where they send the baker to Amsterdam was the best episode of TV I saw all year.
Yep.
I liked it even better than that Christmas episode. It is a great character who's like a minor character, and he goes off on his own for an episode, and it is heartfelt and moving and brilliant and has a great cameo at the end of it and is just amazing. And the one with his or actually the one with the cousin is the one with the cameo at the end of it, and that's a great episode too. That's like The Bear. You're thinking, what? I don't want to watch a show about a bear. Well, it's not about that. It's about a family and people who run a restaurant in Chicago. So it's totally not about a bear, although there is a bear in it. But it's not about that. Yep. Listen to me. Listen to Myke. Watch The Bear if you haven't. Like, just do it.
The Bear is very popular, which is great. It maybe suffers a little bit of the Patriot problem of like the name is not
the title, right? Like, what do I want to watch? The Bear?
Yeah.
I don't like bears. It's not about bears, people. It's so good. Also, it's short. I would say it's a drama, but each episode is like 30 minutes long. So you might be thinking like, is it a comedy? Is it a dramedy? It can be funny, but it is a drama, and it's short. And I kind of love that it's short. Except when it needs to be long, it's long because it's streaming. But mostly it's short, and the pace is as a result very fast, and it's great. It's a great show. For All Mankind. Is back for season 4.
Yep.
It delivers. I have seen the first 8.
I'm halfway.
So I haven't
through.
seen the last 2.
I'm halfway through.
It's great. I love that show.
Yeah, super good. I was
wild.
A little nervous on one episode where I felt like they were focusing on a story that I kind of didn't care about, but then it opened up a little bit.
Yeah, because they're bringing it all together into one big ball of disaster, because that's what that show does.
Yes, and they as always, they open up the show with disaster. Like it after the last season, like me and Adina have this joke now that anytime anyone goes to do anything, I'm sure that they're gonna die. Like
they're gonna
somebody
die.
goes to pick up the
spaceship's gonna
mail,
blow up. Yeah.
And like a satellite lands on their head.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's always and so in episode 1 they're like, "Yep, here's your giant space disaster." Agree on The Last of Us. What an achievement that is. That is a prestige TV show based on a video game. It's done incredibly well. And I would also say you could think after something like The Walking Dead, where people are like, okay, we did the zombie thing. Like, we don't need to do that again. It's like, well, but if you do it like The Last of Us, you can do it again because it is. And the brilliant thing is it's using the zombie apocalypse for what it's supposed to be, which is it's about characters. Because in the end, it's always about the characters, and it does it supremely well.
They're not even in every episode.
No.
Which is,
and it's like, I mean, this is
incredible.
why I like genre TV in general, is that it's about the characters, but you can have these wild ideas that are not based in the real world. They're there to either reflect our fears, reflect our lives, or put characters in situations where they have to process things that are common about being human, even if they're not. Like a character processing the fact that there are zombies chasing them. Like, we may not live that life in our real life, but the way it's told, it's about something fundamental to being a human being. It's beautiful.
Also has a contender for best episode of a show this year, which was the Ben Frank episode.
For sure. That would be my number 2, I think, after the Baker going to Amsterdam. Or is it Copenhagen? Maybe it's Copenhagen.
It goes to Copenhagen.
It's Copenhagen.
Yep.
Sorry, I said Amsterdam earlier. That was the Ted Lasso episode about Amsterdam, which is also great.
Ted Lasso's Amsterdam, also a good episode. Also
I like season 3 of Ted Lasso, by the way. I didn't even put it in the list here, but I liked it. It was not as good as some of the previous, but I liked it.
It did a really good job of wrapping up a show which seemed complicated and difficult to wrap up
It felt like
way.
they were forced to. I felt like they were forced to wrap it up in a way that they're like, because Jason Sudeikis didn't want to be there anymore. Okay, Reservation Dogs. Again, you may or may not like the title. It's done now. They've done all the episodes. They're not going to make any more.
Okay.
It is about a bunch of indigenous kids in Oklahoma on a reservation. And they start out as kind of like they're trying to play with being thieves or being a gang. But it's not really about that. It's not about crime. It's not a Reservoir Dogs kind of thing. There's no blood. It is about kids coming of age on the Indian reservation, trying to figure out who they are, and dealing with trauma because one of the kids in the group has died. Okay. And the rest of them we don't see it at first, but there is a hole in that group, and it really affects them and how they're going to live their lives. It is funny. This is another show that's really short. You could classify it as a comedy, but it's not just that. It's very emotional. It's funny, but also very emotional. It's beautiful. It's really one of the best shows I've seen in the last 10 years. Highly recommended. All episodes available now. Hilarious. I'll also say, for people who are on the fence about it, the show that I find that it's most like tonally is actually Letterkenny, which is weird because Letterkenny is just almost like a sketch comedy show, and I dearly love Letterkenny. But imagine Letterkenny, but with way more heart. That's Reservation Dogs. Cannot recommend it enough. Okay. Amazing. I want to shout out Mrs. Davis, which is a bizarre one-season show that was on Peacock from Damon Lindelof. And, I forget her name, the co-producer who came from a totally different genre, and they made this show together, and it is about an AI that has become sentient that's trying to find the Holy Grail, and there's a nun who used to be a magician.
Okay.
Every episode is bananas, and it has a beginning and it has an end.
Alethea Jones? Is that who you're looking for?
That may be it.
Director and executive producer Tara Hernandez, writer, executive producer.
No, it's Tara Hernandez.
Okay.
Yeah, she did it with Damon Lindelof. They did it together. And she comes from I think she was a writer on Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon. Yeah,
so Big Bang Theory writer and Damon Lindelof.
All of this information came from Upgrady award-winning call sheet.
It's good. Thank you. Anyway, I recommend it. The first episode will tell you whether you want to watch the show or not because it's bananas. It really is. Like, if there is, like, you'll watch it and you'll be like, I don't like this vibe, or you'll be like, I kind of like this vibe. If you like the vibe, watch all of them because it just gets weirder as it goes. In a I found delightful way. So Mrs. Davis, it's a gem. They're only going to make the one season. It's basically a mini series. Watch it. It's great. It's hilarious. And then finally, The Peripheral, a gem that doesn't have an ending and got canceled by Amazon. After it got renewed, it then got canceled. It's the best adaptation of a William Gibson novel I've ever seen. Prestige, beautiful, high-budget science fiction, too high budget to survive, apparently. but really great drama. VR 2 time frame parallel universe sort of, but not quite. And I love the premise of the book, and I love the premise of the show, and they really did some great stuff with it. And I'll miss it because it was really great. That's my list.
Okay.
So now what do we
big
do,
list.
Myke? Now
All
what
right.
do we do?
Let's look for where we overlap, and then maybe use that as a starting point. So we overlap with
Last
Slow
of Us,
Horses,
The Bear,
and Last of
Slow
Us.
Horses. Yeah.
If I'm looking at these, I would I have to think about how I felt watching these 3 shows, for example.
Yep.
And I feel like Slow Horses would be a runner-up.
Yeah.
And then it would be out of The Bear and Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I had a lot of emotions at The Bear because I watched all of it, right? So I feel like that's my caveat there, is I watched season 1 and season 2. I don't know if that would maybe make me have liked it even more. I would maybe lean towards The Bear.
Yeah. Let's do The Bear.
Okay.
And I would like to put, nobody cares, but I would like to put Reservation Dogs on the runners-up.
Yep.
And The Last of Us. And Slow Horses, you can catch us next time.
Yeah.
We'll be back here next year.
We'll be back.
There'll be another season of that.
But just because the reason I wanted to go with The Bear is I think that it is quite an incredible thing to elicit so many emotions out of such a simple premise, which is a guy opens a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like Reservation Dogs, that is a show that is dealing with a trauma that happens before the episode begins. Yep. And everything in it is, at least in part, based on the fact that somebody very close to many of the characters in the movie has died before the show starts.
Yep.
And everybody, or a lot of those people, are broken in a very particular way, and they have to deal with it. And that's actually very similar between those 2 shows. Those are both great shows. Mm-hmm. They're both Hulu shows too, I think. So I don't know where you find them everywhere else, but I think they're both on Hulu. Good year for Hulu.
Disney Plus for me.
Disney Plus in a lot of the world, I would think.
Disney Plus for you soon too.
Oh, it is actually. I can watch them on Disney Plus now.
Yeah,
I can do that
Disney
now.
Plus
Sure.
now.
All right, The Bear. Let's do it. Yes, chef.
Yes,
The Bear.
chef. This episode is brought to you by Factor. This bustling holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, flavorful meals to fuel you on jam-packed days. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, and it can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos. With Factor, you can cross meal prepping off your list this holiday season. Their fresh, never-frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, and you have more than 35 flavor-packed options to choose from every week. Jason, can you tell our listeners why, with all of the stuff that goes on around the holidays, why it's nice to have some Factor meals in the fridge?
Myke, I'm going to let you finish, but Factor has the best microwavable meals of all time. That's a very old reference.
It was.
I'm going to let... So my wife works at a library away from this house. I live in the house all the time. I'm just here endlessly. And I do have to make myself lunches too. But I will tell you, this last batch of Factor that they sent us, she took most of them with her to work for lunches.
Yep.
And I was like, you didn't even let me try more than one. Why did you take them? And this is what she said to me. She said this to me yesterday, unbidden, not intending for it to be in a podcast read, but here we are. Here it is. She said, I cannot believe how good those are. They are microwave lunches. They are so good. I don't know how they make microwave reheated chicken taste good, but they do. And she said, if we ever need to get meals for my mom because she's having issues with cooking for herself, let's get these and not those other ones, unnamed, that we tried that were terrible. So that I laughed when she said it, because she's right. Because I have... Yeah. Again, I didn't get as many of them this time because she took them away from me, because she demanded. She was like, whoa, give me the Factor. But that is an endorsement that I just have to pass on, that you may be thinking to yourself, sticking a little thing in the microwave and heating it up. You can do it in the oven too, but microwave's really fast. You get that 2 or 3 minutes and you're done. Just take it from Lauren. She cannot believe that they're this good. as something you stick in the microwave for 3 minutes, because you know all the connotations of like, it's not quite right and it came, but it's like the meat isn't very good and all that. It's like, it's just not the case with Factor. I don't know what they're doing over there. Probably using good ingredients.
Yes, that's where I start.
Which a lot of places cheap out on, and you think, why is heating something in the microwave bad? And you think it's because of the microwave. Maybe it's because the stuff that they make for heating in the microwave is bad. Anyway, so Lauren and I, but especially Lauren this time, endorsed these meals. Cannot believe that this is a thing that came out of the microwave for my lunch.
And there's more than that, too. If you're looking for calorie-conscious options over the holidays that don't skimp on flavor, you can try delicious dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals of around or less than 550 calories per serving. Or if you need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel your best during the holidays, you could try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. You can also rest assured that you're making a sustainable choice because Factor offset 100% of their delivery emissions to your door and source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices. This December, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door, ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/upgrade50 and use the code upgrade50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code upgrade50, that's upgrade50 at factormeals.com/upgrade50 for 50% off your first box. Our thanks to Factor for their support of this show and Relay FM. It's time for the favorite book category.
Oh, it's my favorite category.
Your favorite category. Although it could be argued so is TV, but you said that already, and I love the TV one too anyway. So, Elder
but that
Race,
one we have opinions about. We both have opinions about. I have no opinions about games. You have no opinions about books, almost. But we both watch TV, so we can share those opinions.
Indeed. Elder Race was the winner last year.
So
the
good.
Upgradians voted. This is a complicated count up, this one. This is always one of the harder ones to count. Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson at 2.6% of the vote. System Collapse by Martha Wells with 3.9% of the vote.
That's going to be a TV show. That's going to be an Apple TV show.
Oh, okay.
That's Murderbot Chronicles, and they just announced that's going.
I saw that with the one of the Skarsgårds.
One of the Skarsgårds.
Yes.
Yeah. That's weird casting, but I don't care. It's like I read System Collapse, really liked it, and I thought this should be a show, and it is a show. It's going to be an Apple. Apple is getting in on the you want your high quality sci-fi. They seem to be really doubling down on that. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And All Souls Lost by Dan Morin at 27.3% of
Pretty
the
good.
vote.
On the Verge's list of the best books of the year.
Really?
This week. Posted today,
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations,
right?
Dan. That's so good.
And you might be saying, why is a novel, an urban fantasy, in fact, on the Verge's list of the best books of the year? But here's the thing. You know and I know that Dan has covered Apple for a long time now. And you might be thinking, well, All Souls Lost, this seems to be a book about like a detective in Boston involving magic, and it's like an urban fantasy. How could it be related to Apple? And I'm not going to spoil it, but let me tell you, it is super related to Apple in a delightful way. And if you have not read All Souls Lost yet, available as an ebook, there's a print-on-demand paperback that you can buy as well if you prefer that. Is there an Apple angle to this book? Oh boy, is there! Is there! But it's like no spoilers for it.
So this is from Barbara
Dan Seifert.
Did Dan write that part? Okay.
Dan wrote that part. It's a conspiracy of Dan's.
Okay. It's not said in this part of the thing, but maybe Barbara just put
There's a little tag at the end of the write-up that is.
Thank you.
Dan Seifert.
Oh, yeah. Dan Seifert, deputy editor. I missed that. So Dan says about Dan's book, different Dan. It took me almost a month to get to All Souls Lost in my reading queue after it was released, and then I promptly tore through it in just a few days. It's an incredibly fun supernatural detective story with a touch of big tech thrown in. The pace is fast, the prose is entertaining, and the characters are rich.
Yep.
There you go. What more do you want?
Okay, so my picks in this category.
Can I just give a nod right now? I read something.
Oh, give your
this
nod
year.
now, sure.
Yes.
Hooray!
Which is not. I know.
Something.
I'm reading one a year. This is not a book, and it's not from this year. But I just wanted to say because I read it. I read the whole run of Ultimate Spider-Man. It's fantastic.
Yep. Myke, that is my favorite comic of this century, I guess.
It's just truly superb. Like, you think you know how a Spider-Man story can be, and they just twist it on its head constantly.
Well, the original premise was, what if we could start from the beginning and use modern storytelling to tell the story of Spider-Man in a familiar way, but like it was a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation. It was like, let's do a comic where we start from zero. And they did this with a bunch of different characters, but in the end, the one that was successful, the most successful in this premise by far, is Ultimate Spider-Man. And it's like Peter Parker, he's young, he learns, and it uses the canon, but it also breaks the canon in a lot of ways, because he's making Brian Michael Bendis, the writer, is who wrote all of it, and there are two different artists on it. So it's really cohesive in a way that long-running comics aren't usually. And he makes creative decisions because he has thought about Spider-Man for 40 years and about like how would you tell this story differently in a modern context. And so like to give one example, like Mary Jane is involved fairly early and learns about his identity, and that matters.
Yes.
And has impact. It reminded me of Buffy a little bit, because Buffy is basically retelling a Spider-Man story, and now Spider-Man is sort of doing Ultimate Spider-Man does the same thing to Spider-Man that Buffy sort of tried to do, where it's still like, let's make this more grounded and about the characters and their family connections, and also like rethinking what the wacky 60s Spider-Man villains would manifest as in a modern context. And he has a story arc, and he grows and he ages, and he has bad things that happen to him, and it really has a beginning, middle, and, believe it or not, kind of an end.
Yeah, there's multiple endings in a way, and the first ending is good, but it happens weirdly and in a way that wasn't controlled by what the writers were really going for. It was in a large arc, like one of those like multi-comic events. And I have finished that, but I'm now on the second part of it where they pick it back up again. And then I'm going to continue reading into Miles Morales and onwards from there.
Yeah, because this is where Miles Morales is introduced, and this aspect of the story is similar to what's in that first Spider-Verse movie.
Yep. It's really good.
Who've seen that?
It's really, really
It's very good. It's one of the best. My two favorite novels that I read this year are Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. This is Scott McNulty read this before me, and he said it's the best octopus-related novel I've read this year.
Okay.
Which is funny because I also read, and Scott did too, Surprisingly Bright Creatures, which is also a novel about an octopus, and is also great. It's actually a great book. But Mountain in the Sea pushes all my buttons. It is sort of cyberpunky and sort of apocalyptic, and is about octopuses that may be sentient, and there's like an android and a disgraced scientist and a corporation, and there's in another part of the story there's like a guy who gets taken hostage and put on a robotic fishing vessel where he's basically, it's like human trafficking is happening, and you're like, how is this all connected? And are those octopuses really as intelligent as people, and what does that mean? Are they aliens but also like us? And it's just all in there. It's a great book. I loved it. It is exactly my jam. And then different, My Murder, a book by Katie Williams. It reminded me of The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, which I read a few years ago, which I really loved. My Murder's premise is that the protagonist is somebody who was murdered and then resurrected using technology that's kind of off screen. It's mentioned. I like how it's a sci-fi setting that they try not to make not too much of the sci-fi. It's not really obsessed with like how it works. It's more about the characters and all of that. But it is also kind of a murder mystery. I think the elevator pitch for this book was, what if the person who was murdered has to solve her own murder? And it has a lot to say about women and how they fit in society, and relationships, and how society and social media and fame and video games and all sorts of other stuff. It's what's interesting about it is it's super a sci-fi novel but sold as a mainstream novel.
Okay.
And So they don't want people to be scared away by the sci-fi elements in it. Often as a sci-fi reader, I read those books and I'm like, oh, I see, you're slumming it, right? Like you're not really committed to the bit here. You don't want to be writing a sci-fi novel and you're kind of ashamed of it. That's not true with My Murder. My Murder is expertly done as a sci-fi novel, but in a way that's very accessible to other people. I'm not going to spoil it, but like, whoa, there are turns and twists and red herrings and surprises, and it is about social media and VR in some ways too. It's fascinating. It's just a wild book. So My Murder by Katie Williams, also one of my favorites of the year. Those are the two five stars on my Goodreads this year. They're both great.
Tell me the winners and runner-up.
I would move Mountain in the Sea as the winner. That was the best book I read this year, with My Murder and All Souls Lost as the runners-up.
All right. Mountain in the Sea is the winner. All Souls Lost. And My Murder. So it's the octopus book that wins. Murder.
The octopus book. It is exactly like, it's not for everybody, and I know people who read it and were like, whatever. I couldn't get enough of it. It's like the most. It's William Gibson-esque in some ways. Reminded me of The Wind-Up Girl by Paolo Bacigalupi a little bit. I mean, in the end, it is also a first context story. I mean, spoilers for Mountain in the Sea, it's not really much of a spoiler, which is, are the octopuses intelligent? Well, it'd be a really disappointing book if they weren't, right? Mm-hmm. And and it's weird. And like I said, why is there an android in this book? Honestly, the reason why is because it's actually about dealing with sentience and the question of like, what does it mean to be an intelligent sentient creature? And is this android sentient? Is this octopus sentient? Are human beings sentient? Like, what does it all mean? Like, how do we define you as being alive and real versus something that we can other and say, oh, they're not real? And Mountain in the Sea is about that, but it's also fun and wild and weird.
We'll move to favorite podcast. Last year's winner was Connected. You're on Relay FM.
Oh.
The Upgradians voted thusly, with 7.2% for Cortex, 9.5% for Upgrade, and 14.8% for Connected.
Oh.
I would like to thank our listeners for enjoying my programs.
Yeah,
it feels good and it's humbling when I go through these and these are the answers. So I just want to tell everybody that I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
They didn't nominate any of my other podcasts.
They're in there, Jason, but they weren't up in the top 3.
No, they weren't at the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else do you have for favorite podcast personally?
The Town. From The Ringer and Puck, hosted by Matt Bellany. This show is unbelievably good. It's 3 times a week, about 30 minutes an episode. Matt Bellany writes at the Puck. Writes at Puck. He is Puck. Like the
News.
Puck News. He's there like, what do you like? And it's like writes about entertainment mostly, right? Like, it's his kind of thing.
It's like Hollywood.
Yeah, he used to work at the Hollywood Reporter. The Town is a reference to Hollywood being the town. It's known in the industry as the Town, right? And he was at the Hollywood Reporter. He was a lawyer beforehand. If you enjoy anything about entertainment, so if you enjoy the upstream segments, if you enjoy downstream, I think if you just enjoy this show, you would enjoy The Town because it is mostly looking at the way that these large entertainment companies work. And his Rolodex is huge. He has anyone on the show that he wants to, basically. It was what it feels like. Like when Netflix dropped their data dump, he had the Netflix CEO, Ted Sarandos, on the show to talk about it. He has regular guests, including Lucas Shaw from Bloomberg. He's the Monday guy. I love them two together. There's segments on the show. We love a segment in this show. They have it. They have a segment called The Call Sheet at the end where Bellany makes predictions. Like, it falls into so many of the things that I like to do on my podcasts too. He makes predictions about box office over and unders. But the thing that surprises me the most about this show is there is clearly like good production going on in the types of content they produce and the people they get to come on and talk about it. Like, I don't think I have heard a show that was ostensibly an interview show that is as good as this one, where Bellany brings on every week people I've never heard of before, and every single episode is fascinating because of the way he is able to talk to people. And he is one of these people that's clearly respected enough in Hollywood that he can kind of ask whatever question he wants, and people will answer it. Or they won't, but it won't stop them from going on the show. Really good content during the strikes. Just all around fantastic. It's like 3 times a week, 30 minutes an episode. I cannot recommend it enough. It's my favorite show this that I found this year, and it's maybe the only podcast I've ever listened to where Adina listens to it too, and me and her have a conversation about every episode about what we feel about it.
Right.
Because it's just that good.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
It's fantastic. Very good. The when Bob Iger came back, they did Matt and Lucas Shaw, who I'd say are the two definitive like journalists covering this era of Hollywood. Yep. I would say and the streaming machinations and all those things. And you're saying, what about Julia? Well, Julia's not a journalist; she's an analyst who also has a column and a podcast. But like, she's an analyst; she's got clients and stuff like that. These guys, this is what they do. Yeah, and they do that show together on Mondays,
right? Where Julia is tethered. She's doing a lot of things. She has her fingers in a lot of pies.
She's got client work. I mean, it's not her primary job. Her primary job is being the director of strategy for Parrot Analytics, right? These guys, this is what they do. Matt Bellamy does Puck, used to be at the Hollywood Reporter, and Lucas Shaw is at Bloomberg and covers Hollywood for Bloomberg. And then you get them together, those episodes especially, just like they are the smartest people in the room. Mm-hmm. And so you get them to talk. And that episode about after Bob Iger came back is so good because you can hear how giddy they are about it, and also how these are experts who are processing in real time a cataclysmic event in their industry. Like, it's a great podcast. I think it's going to win. But let me tell you about 2 podcasts that I also liked this year that I found. I don't find a lot of new podcasts, but I did find 2. One of them, obvious, but I got to mention it, Strike Force 5, which was the 5 late-night talk show hosts doing a podcast when the strike was happening. Yeah. It happened so late that they only released 5 episodes, and then they ordered all their merch, and then the strike got settled, and they're like, okay, well, please buy our merch. And also please listen to our 4 episodes that we recorded that haven't come out yet. But there's some gems in that episode or in that series, in that very small series. There are
Adina
some gems.
Loved it. It was one of those shows she'd listen to and just be laughing just like her head up. I couldn't do it because at least at the beginning, the audio production was just so bad. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it.
It's not. It doesn't sound great. It is very clearly a recording of a Zoom conversation between famous people.
Which just didn't make sense to me because I saw pictures and they were all using really nice microphones. It's like, did nobody tell them how to press record on a
press record?
I just couldn't. I couldn't deal with it. I'm very weird like that. I just can't handle bad audio.
Nope. I get it. I think there's one episode. I'm not sure if it's episode 5. Yeah, it is. That's the one where there are, that's hilarious just to listen to because that's where Jimmy Fallon tries to do a quiz where he's asked questions of the wives of all of the people on the panel. Cause it's Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, Stephen Colbert, and
Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah.
All together because they got nothing to do because of the strike. Episode 5, let's just say it reminded me of many podcasts I've been on. Yeah. Because Jimmy Fallon's prep is questionable. He has not honed his questions right, and throughout he is asking the whole premise is undermined. And of course, you've got 4 other sharp-witted comedian talk show hosts there to pick apart the premise as it's going on. It's amazing. It's very hilarious. And episode 9 is David Letterman. They all talk to David, and they ask all the questions they have always wanted to ask David Letterman.
I love the premise of it too, that these guys should all be bitter rivals, and in previous years, let me tell you, I was going to
say, let's just say that if this was a scenario 20 years ago, David Letterman and Jay Leno would not have a podcast.
It would have been a boxing match. It wouldn't have been a podcast, right?
Definitely not. So that was a fun podcast. It came in and went. And episode 5 is hilarious, and the David Letterman one is worth a listen to. And the other podcast, proving that I am a middle-aged dad. I'm going to just do it. I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear it with it comes for you eventually. The middle-aged dad comes for you eventually. You can't dodge it for too long. And therefore, I recommend a podcast called The Rest is History, in which two British historians, Tom Holland and Dominic Sandbrook, talk about stuff that happened in the past. And as somebody, what I love about it is you can pick and choose the stuff that interests you.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, like, there's some history that I learned, and then all the rest of it I did not learn and don't know anything about. So they did a history of, like, the history of Ukraine. I'm like, I don't know anything about the history of Ukraine. Let's have a listen to that, and learned all sorts of things that I didn't know about that are the fundamental background of what's happening there. I got into them because they did a series of episodes about the American Revolution, and they're British. So amazing, because they are outside of the official story told in American classrooms about the revolution. And it was fascinating because they puncture a lot of illusions that, myth making that Americans like to tell about the reasons for the revolution. And I found it incredibly fascinating, and that made me want to listen to. They did a bunch of episodes about the American Civil War that were really great. The fall of the Soviet Union and the rise of Putin, and those were really good. And the history of Ukraine was fascinating and timely. And they're funny, and they have guests. And like, if you are a middle-aged dad and you want to listen to things about history and learn stuff, The Rest is History is really a lot of fun, and it was a great find for me this year.
All right, so can we go with The Town as the winner?
Yep. Yeah, and then let's make The Rest is History and Strike Force 5 the runners-up.
Yep, I love that.
Although I will say, I shout out to Cortex, a podcast with Mike Hurley and CGP Grey on it. I don't listen to every episode of it because I have limited podcast time.
There's only like 15 of them a year, you know what I mean?
But I listen to most
really
of
long,
them.
though.
And they are really long. And they're very good. They're just that every time I listen to that show, I am impressed with all the stuff that you guys go through. Your themes episode, your State of the Apps episode, especially your Post Vision Pro episode.
That's my favorite thing I made this year.
A lot of good stuff.
I would say, like, considering you've just complimented me and so did all of the listeners, I would say that, like, I think this might be Cortex's best year content-wise. I've been very happy with it, and that has come from increased effort from the two of us. We've worked on trying to make the show better, and I think we made the show better. And so I hope that will continue. Favorite Apple product of the year now. Last year was the M2 MacBook Air. The Upgradians voted with 13.7% to the absolute shock surprise for me, the 15-inch MacBook Air. I was not expecting it.
It's a crowd pleaser.
That was just like, I didn't really get a sense that it was a popular product at large, and I would not have guessed that it would be a very popular product amongst our audience based on the type of feedback that we get. And 15-inch MacBook Air, 13.7%. 16.8%, the iPhone 15 Pro. Mm-hmm. And at 27.1% is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. For me, it's either the 15 Pro Max or the Apple Watch Ultra 2.
Oh, interesting.
It was my first Apple Watch Ultra.
And in what I would say is kind of a quiet year, I was going to say the iPhone 15 Pro, which I like. Pro Max has the cool new camera, and I think it gets my endorsement. I think that's the best product Apple shipped this year, if you consider, like, what's new.
Yep.
The M3 Max MacBook Pro would be on my list, I would say, because the Max is so impressive as a chip. But nothing else changed about it. So I would consider that maybe a runner-up.
Yeah, it's a good one. So let's go with the winner is the iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Yeah.
With the M3 Max MacBook Pro. I'd also like to put the 15-inch MacBook Air in there just because it was so surprising to me.
Okay, let's do it.
I just thought that was... I don't know if I should be surprised about that, but I was.
Yeah, I love it.
Favorite non-Apple product last year was the Steam Deck.
Ah, yes, I'll let you have that one.
The Upgradians voted with 3.4% for the Anker 3-in-1 Cube, which is a very good charging
Cubes
solution.
are the best,
Indeed.
says Federico.
4.2% for ChatGPT. I was surprised to see it in this part, but it was. And at 5.3% is the Steam Deck OLED. It's back, baby. It's back, baby. Here it is again.
What do you think?
I'm going to throw a vote in for the Steam Deck OLED because I got one. I sold my Steam Deck, and with the money that I got from a product that I returned that I'm going to talk about later on in the show, I bought a Steam Deck OLED, and it is it's incredible how good that screen is, and the overall package is nicer. It's got a faster Wi-Fi chip, which is great for downloading the really large games that are on Steam. It's got a little bit better battery life, but not that much. It's noticeable. It's a little lighter, but also not that much. It's noticeable, but the screen really makes a huge difference. But for me, I think my absolute favorite thing this year was the Sonos Era 100. I spoke about this on the show that I've gotten into Sonos in my home, and the Era 100 is such a huge upgrade over the Sonos One. It is now a stereo speaker. It has line-in. It has Bluetooth. It sounds fantastic. So it's become an even better option for people that are looking to get into Sonos. So I really recommend it.
Wow, I really struggled with this one. I don't think I have a product that I would consider a favorite. Just sort of like in general from everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's anything. I keep racking my brain. And I don't think I've got anything. I actually thought about putting in here KitchenAid mixer.
Okay.
Because I love my KitchenAid mixer. And it's not an Apple product, so sure. Make some bread, make some cookies, whatever. Use your mixer.
Yeah.
But really, I have no vote here. I would probably go with a Steam Deck OLED because I like the doing that again.
Yeah. I want to. That's why I would like to do Steam Deck OLED as the winner.
Okay. All right, let's make Sonos a runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
And Cube?
Yeah. The Cube is great. The Anker Cube is a great product. So the winner of the favorite non-Apple product is the Steam Deck OLED, with the runners-up as the Sonos Era 100 and the Anker 3-in-1 Cube.
I love it. That seems like... Because, okay, so the background here with the Upgradies is that I used to do the Eddie Awards every year at Macworld and before that at Mac User. And... you're in the room and you're doing debates, and then in the end it comes out and it's like all very like, oh yes, here's the winner and here are the runners up, and it's very serious. And most of the time we took it extremely seriously, but there are those moments where you're like, can we just pick two and move on? And I like that on this podcast, and this has been the case for now 10 of these. Sometimes you get to this point and you're like, Anker Cube, let's do that. Okay, that looks good. Great. And we just move on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stamped into history now as a runner-up. Great.
It's a great little product, the Anker Cube. And this is another example of why we have the Upgradian vote, because sometimes we don't have a good option. And so it's great to have the Upgradians in here too to help us balance out the awards.
I like it.
And this episode is brought to you by Vitally. Customer success teams today are facing a problem. How do they connect customer data back to their work? Vitally changes that. It's a new kind of customer success platform, an all-in-one collaborative workspace that combines your customer data with all the capabilities you expect from today's project management and work platforms. Because it's designed for today's customer success team, that's why Vitally operates with unparalleled efficiency, improves net revenue retention, and delivers best-in-class customer experiences. It's the solution to helping your customer success team keep a better pulse on your customers, which maximizes productivity, visibility, and collaboration. You can boost your bottom line by driving more revenue per customer with Vitally. And if you take a qualified demo of Vitally, you'll get a free pair of AirPods Pro. So if you're a customer success decision maker actively seeking CS solutions, working at a B2B software as a service company with 50 to 1,000 employees, and you're willing to explore changing customer success platforms if you already have one in place, schedule your call today by visiting vitally.io/upgrade, and you'll get that free pair of AirPods Pro. That's vitally.io/upgrade for a free pair of AirPods Pro when you schedule a qualified meeting. Our thanks to Vitally for their support of this show and all of Relay FM. Now with the worst gadget or most disappointing technology. Last year was the iPad Pro with M2 chip.
Now, remember, I was taken aback by this, but remember, this is because the iPad Pro, we were thinking that there would be like major changes to the iPad Pro, and they didn't do anything.
And
so it was disappointing.
Didn't even do the bare minimum, which was give the 11-inch the better screen.
Indeed. They
yep,
didn't.
Upgradians voted with 5.1% for ChatGPT, which is so funny to me. I will tell you, Upgradians, you're an incredible bunch, where like 5% of you will say ChatGPT was your favorite product, and 5% of you will say it was most disappointing. I love it.
Yep.
9% is X. And 13.3% is the Humane AI pin.
Yeah.
Now, I would just like to state here the PlayStation Portal was my most disappointing technology of the year. So this was a device that PlayStation made to allow you to remote play to your PlayStation. So you're playing from your PlayStation but over Wi-Fi. And for me, the connection was terrible. It was so bad. It was at home trying to play this thing with a PlayStation sitting in front of me. But I wanted to play it handheld so the TV wasn't occupied. That was my use case for this thing. And it was so bad. Like, the screen was incredible for what it was, for like a $250 device. The controller was great because it was a PlayStation controller cut in half with the screen in the middle. But they skimped out on the Wi-Fi chip, and it just could not handle it. I did not enjoy it. It was really bad for me. Other people have had other experiences. I've heard of really good experiences with it, but for me, was not so, and I wasn't willing to make any changes to the way that my house was wired just to get a better response here. So PlayStation Portal returned, Steam Deck OLED acquired. But yeah, that was a disappointment for me. I was looking forward to it as a disappointment.
So I have two nominees here. One is, as the Upgradians said, the Humane AI pin. And again, I kind of don't want to kick them when they're down, but I feel like their presentation was so over the top and also incompetent that their marketing has always struck me as being like incredibly arrogant. Like, we're great and we know it and we're going to change the world. And on one level, it's like marketing, so I get it. But on another level, I read it as like, are you though? Are you? And then you see this thing, which still hasn't shipped, right? But like, they've announced it and they're taking orders for it. And there's just not that much there. And it definitely feels like a product that was originally going to be like, oh, you project it on your hand. And then they're like, oh, chatbots, let's do that instead. And they made some changes. And I don't know. It seems like a really dumb gadget that is. I talked for a while about how I think the idea of having AI agents that help know about your life better than you can recall and connect the dots is going to be a big thing, and it's going to be potentially a game changer, but I don't understand how this hardware would be that.
No, it's not.
It'll be in all sorts of other things and not a pin you wear.
So
I want to nominate that.
The one thing I'm going to say about this is all we have had is a presentation video, so I think it is hard to say. Like, we could say it was the worst presentation video, but and also, was anybody really disappointed by this? Like,
I don't know.
Were you expecting something better?
I'm saying worst gadget.
Yeah.
I'm saying worst gadget, that this is a gadget, and I don't quite think anyone needs it. And their key features are not features they invented, because they're literally just chatbots from someone else. And even the integration, right? Like, I think we all assumed that it would be more than it is, because it's like literally, hey, it's a chatbot, but you can attach it. And like, does it talk to my phone? Well, no, we can't do that. So it's got its own phone number, and like,
we ruined the world by creating phones. So here's another phone without screen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and the presentation and the whole thing around it is part of it, and I'm going to nominate it in that category too. But I want to nominate it here because as a gadget, I was trying to keep an open mind, but like the presentation, I just don't know what they're even. I mean, it really felt to me like they got investment and they got to do a product, and this is their best swing at it. But like, I'm not sure even they believe that this is a thing. I think that they may be, you get to a certain point and your choice is, well, we can keep running this out and then have it crash and burn, or we can give the money back to the investors. And their decision is, well, no, let's run it out and watch it crash and burn. And maybe a shot in the dark, it'll be successful, but it probably won't, but let's give it a shot. And that's how the Humane AI pin feels to me. Like, they're just burning the money of their investors at this point. But I do have another disappointing tech that I want to throw out there, which is Matter. Remember Matter?
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the year where Matter unified all our stuff, and our smart home stuff finally came into focus. And instead, it kind of didn't happen. Like, Matter's around, and some things support it, but other things don't support it, and it didn't really happen, and it's unclear, is this just the growing pains of a thing that's going to ultimately be the thing that we all use next year or the year after, or is it a flop? And I don't know, and that is disappointing.
I pay attention to a couple of HomeKit YouTubers still, and I feel like it is still in that camp of this will make a bigger difference in a year or two from now, because what it seems like is so many new products come out now with Matter. And so it will be something we get the effect of in years from now, especially as they continue to add in new things into the spec. They did more this year. They're doing more next year. I think vacuums are coming next year. So it is a case of device makers need to opt into it, but more and more of them are. And I do feel like there are more companies, there are more products available to you now than there were before, because whether you're on iOS or Android, because there are some companies that are now like, hey, this will work for you now because of Matter. But I think it's one of those things where like your mileage may vary for quite a while as to whether it will make any impact on your life.
And I think we were all, disappointing is what I'm hitting home here, which is I think we felt like when the first shots of Matter were fired, and it was late, but it was last year, after already being kind of like later than we thought it would be.
Yep.
And it finally came out, because remember, this was like Chip or something. It had another not a real name, and then their Matter. And then this year, I just felt like all the Matter stories were, well, this doesn't support it, and this thing has a limited thing with Matter, and this thing is not quite right. And I totally get that we're playing the long game here with Matter, but I would say this year, I thought Matter would make more of a difference, and it hasn't. And maybe that was an unrealistic expectation, but I certainly felt the disappointment.
All right. I feel like we'll put PlayStation Portal and I would say Matter as runner-up and go with the Humane AI pin, because the Upgradians voted pretty overwhelmingly for it, and it was also in yours. And I do agree. Yeah. My only asterisk on it is it is a product that I don't even think is available. Like, you could buy it. No, there's not been any reviews. But I don't think it's going to surprise anyone. Like, I think it will probably just be worse than we even think that it will be. Yeah.
We've decided. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Most life-changing hardware last year was picked up by the M2 MacBook Air. Best Mac ever, in my opinion. Love that thing. Yeah. The Upgradians voted with 4.8% for the iPhone 15 Pro Max, at 6.3% for the AirPods Pro 2, and I combined the votes for Apple Watch and Apple Watch Ultra to come in at 14.9%. There was Apple Watch, Apple Watch SE, Apple Watch 8, Apple Watch 9, Apple Watch Ultra. I just combined them all because that felt like the sanest thing to do. And that came in at 14.9%. And I will say that the battery life specifically of the Apple Watch Ultra 2 has made huge changes to my life this year. I'm way happier in using the Apple Watch every day than I was before, because it has completely removed the annoyance of charging that device from my life.
I'd say my nominee here, and it doesn't need to win it, but I'll just say I have embraced the Stream Deck lifestyle, having that set of buttons that's programmable, that can fire off various macros. I was initially, skeptical, and then I bought the mini, and then I upgraded to the full size, and this year I bought another full size that I can use when I travel, and then because I'm doing the Studio B thing, it lives in Studio B, so I have the same Stream Deck setup in two places so that I can use my familiar things in either location. And that has been great. So I love it. And it literally, as a bit of life-changing hardware, I have to say the Stream Deck.
With the AirPods Pro 2, this year or last year? When they actually came out?
No. They were last year, right? They only did the
think so.
USB-C case this year.
Yeah.
I think we should do Apple Watch Ultra 2.
Okay.
And that acknowledges all the Apple Watch votes that the Upgradians did.
Yep.
And then let's do the Stream Deck and the Pro Max as the runners-up.
Love it. iPhone 15 Pro Max and Stream Deck as runner-up. Apple Watch Ultra 2 as the winner. Final two categories now.
Yeah.
Favorite tech story. Last year, the fall of FTX was the winning category.
Good times. Good times.
This year, the Upgradians voted with AI progress at 8.7%. OpenAI fires Sam Altman at 17.9%. And Apple Vision Pro at 23.2%. Where are you sitting with this one?
I think the wisdom of the Upgradians, the Vision Pro may be the favorite tech story of next year, but this year, look, years and years and years, Apple's doing a headset. Apple's doing a headset. What's it going to look like? What's it going to be like? We got it this year, and it was not what we expected, which was even more exciting. And then all that has reverberated the rest of the year. That was the first half of the year, right? And it has reverberated where we've got the different developer things, and they release betas, and there's talk about like what's the future of it and when's it going to come out, which sounds like early next year, which is exciting, like earlier than some people thought early next year meant, which is great. So for me, the story of this year is the announcement of the Vision Pro for sure.
Because as well, it was also really good and really fun, and like the content was good.
Yeah, and we got to try it.
Stories were
it's
good.
It's an interesting take. It is them trying to do something different. I don't know if they'll succeed, but they're trying to do something different with it. Really interesting, and a new platform from Apple. Like just fundamentally, a new platform from Apple is a big story too. So that was definitely my favorite.
So we will go with the Apple Vision Pro as the winner, and we'll put OpenAI and AI in as the runners-up.
Sure. Thanks, Upgradians.
And we now go to the final category, which is the favorite tech screw-up.
Yep.
Last year
Love
was
it.
Elon Musk buys Twitter. The Upgradians voted
Feeling good.
The humane AI pin at 6.3%. OpenAI fires Sam Altman. It's 23.6%. And again, a combination of anything related to Elon Musk, Twitter, and X, with 36.9% of the vote.
Well, I like the idea of the humane AI pin, specifically the introduction, because I do think that was a tech screw-up. We've already given them, another award here, so I'm gonna not press them for this. But that marketing video was bad, and they made a lot of mistakes, and it's kind of baffling and amazing. But for my money, it was almost my favorite tech story of the year, but it's definitely my favorite tech screw-up of the year, is the whole OpenAI leadership debacle. We're a nonprofit board. We don't like Sam. We're going to fire Sam. Oh, I regrets. Investors in OpenAI saying, what are you doing? Sam Altman being like, I'm going to start my own company, or maybe I'll just bring everybody with me to Microsoft, and having them be like, no, come back. We'll import a new independent board so that we can do this all again in a couple of years, maybe, or not. I don't know. Microsoft will be there, but not on the board, just as an observer, so they get a heads up if something bananas like this happens again. Great. Weird. What a weird story. And in the end, never mind. Never mind.
Yep. Yeah, for me, like, I kind of agree with you. Like, as a singular story, this was also my favorite tech story of the year, but the Vision Pro weaved its way throughout the year, which made it, like, overall a better story to tell. And also, if this wasn't also a screw-up, I would have, right? Like, because this is a screw-up, I knew I could award it here. This was a fascinating thing that happened. The initial thing itself was incredibly interesting and weird, like firing him. And then the twists and turns that occurred over like a 7 to 10 day period was just like incredible. And I cannot remember in my history of being involved in this industry and paying attention to this industry of a company bungling something so badly that, like, a board performed their role so poorly, they were all got rid of. And like the company has taken a reputational hit, which was pretty big, and we could look back a year from now and be like, oh yeah, that was where it changed. I don't know what has changed, but that could be what we look at and be like, oh yeah, that was
the meaning of OpenAI has changed, and it might be positive, might be a negative, but it's definitely a change in how we view that company and Sam Altman and everybody else. Well, he's come a long way from being the looped guy with the pop collars on stage with Steve Jobs, right? Long. I can never forget that, but it's that guy, it's Sam Altman, and everybody loves him apparently.
The thing that I wonder that could have a lasting thing is like, what do enterprise companies think about OpenAI now, or would they now be more willing to just work directly with Microsoft and use the OpenAI technology, but have what they might consider to be a more reliable, understandable company in its stead? I don't know.
So if they had fired Sam Altman and then just gone on, it might not have been a screw up. Although they would have really been a screw up if they had fired him and then everybody had just left the company and gone to Microsoft.
I think that actually would have been a bigger screw up.
Yeah, that would have been. So there's like they could have been in play for favorite tech story, but the way it worked, and it could still be favorite tech story, but it was all, why did this happen? I just think, it's a good tech screw up. There are lots to choose from in the tech industry this year. So I think OpenAI is our winner, and the humane AI pin introduction and Elon/Twitter/X are our runners up in this category.
Yep. It is actually quite a spectacular achievement from OpenAI that they were able to topple Elon in our minds, at least.
Yeah. I mean, that is also just an ongoing screw up that happened starting last year, so it just has continued. And I'd say it's just rolling thunder with Twitter and X, right? Like it is not. They have not yet had their purely cataclysmic event. Instead, it's more like it just keeps being that thing that keeps happening, and that's okay. There's next year's Upgradies. We got next year's Upgradies for whatever happens. I mean, 2014 with Elon.
Also, for me at this point, I don't care.
Yeah,
right.
I hear you.
Like I don't care what happens to X at this point. Like if you're still using it, I don't know, man. I just don't.
Honestly, if my sports writers
there, like just go there.
If X got shut down, it would be great because all those sports writers people would have to go to Threads, and then I could just read them on Threads. But as it is, I can't assemble that list anymore.
It's happening though, right? Like it's
is.
Happening.
Yeah, I'm starting to follow baseball writers on Threads or Blue Sky. I'm starting to put it together. It's just not all there yet. So that may happen in 24. That might they might finally drain out of there.
Putting money into NBA, like they're trying to like convince the NBA writers to come over. And that's like a thing that they're doing, sponsoring some NBA stuff. And so like they might do that with more sports. You never know. I know they're doing it with F1 a little bit too, because Charles Leclerc, one of the Ferrari drivers, he has like a deal with Meta. He's been like in their ads for a while, and they've been getting him to post.
I'm building my follow list, and at some point I'll do actual proper lists on those other services. They're just not anywhere close to what's still in my old sports list. So give me a reason to delete that bookmark in 2024. That would be great.
Thank you so much if you participated in the Upgradies this year. We really appreciate you giving your nominations to us. If you would like to send in your feedback, follow-up, or questions for future episodes, you can always go to upgradefeedback.com. You can find Jason at sixcolors.com, theincomparable.com, and here on Relay FM, where you'll find me too on Relay FM. You can check out my work at cortexbrand.com. I was talking about the other social networks. You can find us on Mastodon. Jason is at jsnell on zeppelin.flights, and I am at imike on mike.social. You can find the show as Upgrade at relayfm.social. You can watch video clips of the show there and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where we are at Upgrade Relay. I'm on Threads. I'm at imike, IMYKE. Jason has previously said he isn't, but I've been seeing him on Threads this week, and he is at jsnell, JSNELL. Thank you to our members.
Snell Zone on Blue Sky. Snell Zone on Blue Sky.
Are you really using Blue Sky?
Not much, but a little bit. There's stuff there, but mostly it's Threads, and really mostly it's Mastodon, but also a little bit of Threads and Blue Sky. I just wanted to. Blue Sky lets you register as a domain, so I'm snell.zone over there, and I just find that hilarious every time I see it. So there it is.
You could do that
if you're a Bluesky person.
For Mastodon, if you really wanted to, but you shouldn't. You just don't do that.
Well, I'm using Zeppelin.flights for that, so that's what I got.
Thank you to our members and supporters of Upgrade Plus. You can get longer ad-free versions of the show, including this one, by going to getupgradeplus.com. Thank you to those that do that. Thank you to our sponsors of this episode, Vitally, Factor, Text Expander, and Electric. We'll be back next time with the Upgrade Holiday Special. Until then, say goodbye, Jason Snell.
Have a good week, everybody, but don't miss that Christmas Day episode. Woo! It's something.
It's coming.
Bye, Myke. See you later.